By the gods! Abraham turned to the doctor. What little colour the man had in his face drained away with eyes pleading to escape. Doctor, we must get going now! Agatha lay still, an unnaturally wide grin plastered onto her face. He watched for the blood seeping from the wound. Nothing. Gregory opened the door behind him. The cool rush of hollow air made the doctor's hair rigid. He raised himself back onto his feet slowly, eyes lingering on Agatha even as Mr. Siter slipped his hand into his jacket pocket to pull out a small handgun. Now you know why I gave you this, Abraham muttered. Mr. Siter, the doctor growled. He felt the boy's eyes on him as he spoke. Please explain this manner so that we might properly deal with it. Agatha rolled her eyes before jumping to her feet to dust herself off.
It is quite rude not to play along for at least a little while. It had been too long since someone stabbed me.
She tugged the blade out from her chest. The skin pulled itself closed, forgetting the dagger was ever there. Agatha sniffed the air and licked her lips.
So, you're the doctor.
She eyed Abraham.
I didn't expect another Duke of Sangris to be with you.
Abraham hurried Gregory through the door. The only thing we have in common, I can assure you. The doctor scowled. More things you didn't tell me, Mr. Siter? A devilish crimson shine flashed across Agatha's expression. Her teeth gleamed amidst the fire, two pearl fangs growing with her chortle. The warmth of the blaze faded away, but its light did not.
Oh, Gregory!
Agatha called out.
I am hungry!
A blur swept past the doctor's face. A thunder of a gun did little against Agatha's screech as she launched herself at Abraham. She grabbed Mr. Siter and sent him careening into one of the sofas. Abraham quickly recovered. He rushed her with bare teeth, more instinct than gentleman. He wrapped his hands around her neck. Agatha savagely kicked Abraham away, sending him hurtling into the wall, stones crumbling around him. He swore and pushed himself out of the wall, dropping onto the floor with heavy breaths. His eyes widened as he turned to the doctor. Stop her! The doctor turned in time to catch the point of the blade before his eyes. With a grin, the doctor stepped aside of the blade. He aimed his two fingers at select points at her neck. His hearts charged to their duty once the scream of Miss Papyrus shot through him to his core. The doctor's jab caught her off guard. She crashed down into the floor. Before he could take any satisfaction from it, Abraham grabbed his shoulder tightly and ushered him through the open door. Adrenaline and luck kept the doctor from stumbling down the steps alongside Mr. Siter, while the unmistakable grunts of a terrified child told him just how far Gregory had gotten. We have to get back outside, Abraham warned. Once we do, we will hold an advantage. The doctor took no guilt in his joy at the thought of pushing Mr. Siter off the steps. You better start giving some clear answers, he ordered, preferably quickly. Agatha's enraged cursing translates into any tongue quite well.
How much further?
Gregory called back. Not far, answered the doctor instinctively. Abraham looked up, surveying the entrance for Agatha. I don't believe we have the time. I'm a Time Lord, Siter. I can make time. Now talk. Abraham paused for a moment. A fair point, Doctor. Agatha and I are both Dukes of Sangris, though she is much older than I. Another race? A curse, you could say. A curse with enhanced strength and durability. A compensation for a need for... He hesitated, looking at Gregory. Dinner. The doctor straightened himself. Dinner? Liquid dinner, to put it tactfully. A shape rushed past the pair. It halted the two in their tracks, giving time for Gregory to run back up to meet them before a crash that shook the entire staircase sent him to his knees. Around the spiral staircase, one at a time, torches began to flicker into life. Agatha stood at the bottom of the steps, both eyes still sparkling with her smile. She tapped her foot to the music of destruction.
Now, this is what I like for my guest. A way of spicing up my eternal existence. Conversations are quickly forgotten. Moments like this do. They will last forever. For myself, of course. You three shall not have to worry about burying them for much longer.
She turned to Mr. Saito once more.
I'm willing not to report this to the coven, if you will be my guest and quench your thirst alongside me.
Abraham blocked the doctor. He ushered Gregory behind him. The doctor's admiration for Mr. Saito grew with the range in his voice. Report me? You think that explaining to the other dukes that you thought it was all right to steal a child for a personal blood supply is a reasonable idea? Abraham held Gregory close and grabbed the doctor's arm. Do you have a plan? Asked the doctor, but the words fell on numb ears. Abraham continued. Did you ask the boy's parents? No. Did you look after the child? Absolutely not. You trapped him in a dank cellar with only the dirt to keep him warm. You break our most sacred rules, but dare to report me? With Gregory and the doctor in tow, he leapt down to the ground. Abraham released Gregory, who swiftly darted away. The doctor backed away towards the door, trying to grasp the situation while Abraham moved closer. Mr. Saito shakily aimed his pistol. The recoil sent the bullet rocketing into Agatha's cheek. He didn't have time to regain the nobleman rage before Agatha, talons bursting through the bones of her fingers, swiped at Abraham. The doctor pulled away in time. Would that have even worked? Abraham nodded. In the daylight, it will kill her. Gregory scrambled to the ladder at the end, gaze darting from it and the two young men screeching to a halt in front of him. The morning sun seeped in, shining on the dust floating in the air. Nearly there now, the doctor encouraged. Up that ladder is the outside world, and then it's just a field away from the town itself. A smile creaked onto Gregory's face. He scarpered up the iron bars, stumbling, but not letting any whack to his knees deteriorate his speed. Just as the boy reached the top, his hands shaking on the edge of the wooden hole, a gust of wind blew through the tunnel, taking out the torches. Gregory, quickly get out before we're killed, pleaded Abraham. The doctor stepped in. We will both be fine, Gregory. Abraham and I do this sort of thing quite often. Before you ask, he does indeed panic like this each time. The boy pulled himself up through the entrance out of sight. No sooner had the calm raised a finger to announce itself, a giggling Agatha strolled through the corridor. In a burst, she went from a nightmare's distance to a hand embedded in the wall. Up the stairs! The pair chorused. Abraham shoulder-barged Agatha into the ground. The doctor seized his moment, using the hostess's back as a step to jump up the ladder. With Abraham's scream came the tearing of cloth and flesh. The doctor launched himself down into Agatha, who sat on Abraham gleefully until she felt the force of the doctor's foot in her shallow, pale neck. Drops of black blood spurted from Abraham's mouth as he caught his breath to speak. What are you doing? The doctor twisted himself around, avoiding Agatha's swipes. We are both getting out of here. Get yourself up that ladder. Whatever protest Abraham had died in a fit of coughing. He nodded, making his way up the iron bars as the doctor got in what jabs he could while feeling her cold breath closing in each time he dodged her grip. His heart beat faster, growing ever more aware that he couldn't keep it up for long. A shudder surged through his body, turning his world into a black and white painting the moment that Agatha locked her hand around his wrist.
Relax,
she cooed.
You are much too entertaining to dispose of. Rest assured, you will have a better room than the boy.
On childish instinct, the doctor clamped his teeth on Agatha's hands, causing her to release him to bound up the ladder to a biting morning air above. The feel of grass beneath his boots put a shame to all the giant wonders of the universe. Agatha's hand came crashing down the edge of the entrance. The sunrise choked it. Smooth skin festered away into a zigzag of wrinkles. The doctor stepped back. He stopped when his boot met the tired form of an old man, garbed in Abraham's clothes, breathing deeply amongst the tall grass. The woman from the painting in the mansion emerged from the hole, withering in her movements as she clambered onto her feet. Along with the familiar welcome song of the morning birds, a high, harsh sizzle filled the air. The old woman looked at the doctor with shaking eyes.
All I wanted was food,
she pleaded.
Stay with me, please. As I said, I will give you the finest room I have to offer. You will never be hungry again. All I ask is your body.
I am the doctor.
I know who you are. All sins would be forgiven if you just let me drink.
Food. The most basic need could drive people so very far in their lives. Empires rose, planets burned, all in the name of food. No, this was more than food. In the night, Agatha had held such delight in the hunt. A bullet shot past his ears. Silence fell upon the birds, giving way to the lingering echo of the shot. Before Agatha's body could meet the ground, the morning wind cast her body aside as dust, it crumbling away into a pile of clothes. The rustling grass revealed Gregory, who rushed to hug the doctor's legs as tightly as the exhaustion would allow. The doctor took a deep breath. He rested his hand on the child's head, stroking the boy's hair to comfort both of them. His gaze lingered on the shaking old Abraham, a gun still pointing at where Agatha once stood. "If they ask, you did it," came Abraham's creaking voice. The old man's quivering arm dropped the gun. The doctor allowed himself a grin. "This whole thing has been a mess," Abraham bowed weakly. "I should have told you the full details. Sometimes our roles..." "You can report to your client that the job is done." The doctor scowled. "I will get Gregory back home." Abraham let out a gasping chuckle. "I doubt after this the other dukes will let your punishment slide." "I'm sure you'll think of a new one. Maybe next time you'll actually tell me what I will do." "Will do?" "Time is complicated when you travel in it. I can watch an empire fall before I see its emperor born." "I'm not sure I understand." Abraham stumbled as he stepped forward. The doctor sighed, any anger he had falling away to exhaustion. "In that case you can come with me. I can explain it while escorting Gregory home." Abraham looked to the boy, who averted his shivering gaze. "I would be happy to. Can we take it slow?" The doctor's limbs cried out their approval. "We could use the rest." He reached his hand down, beginning his walk when he felt the smaller fingers wrap around his own. "It gives us plenty of time to talk."
If you stayed till this long, comment down below. Happy Halloween!